Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a very special Ektar solo cast. Let me fix that camera real quick. We have ourselves a Zul'jin Distillery invitational match between I Must Feed and ProBUs. And you can see that we have Lost Caverns unfortunately getting banned out by ProBUs. We had Volskaya getting and Infernal Shrines getting banned out by I Must Feed, and rounding out the bans, we have Dragonshire from ProBUs. Game number one, we have Volskaya Foundry, and let's get into it, because we've already got our bans started, with Li Ming getting banned out from ProBUs, and ETC getting banned out, ETC getting banned out from ProBUs, and Li Ming getting banned out by I Must Feed. We had I Must Feed win the coin toss, opting for first hero pick, now banning out the Gul'dan. And ProBUs obviously losing the coin toss and opting for, or being given first map pick, is taking us to Alterac Pass. Bit of an interesting map to go to for game number one. It's not like a lot of the other maps in the map pool just because it's kind of gigantic. Although, for anyone not familiar, the Zul'jin Distillery Invitational actually uses a much larger map pool than basically any other Heroes of the Storm League, because it's got all of the standard maps that you know and love, all of the standard maps that no one actually plays games on, but it's also got maps like Garden Terror and Hanamura. Even in Lost Caverns is a viable map, although I still don't think Haunted Mines can be played, which, rest in peace, Haunted Mines. We've got Sudden Bears picking up the Leo. An interesting first pick considering all of the really strong heroes available. Leo is good, but he is not, like, fantastic, so it's a little bit of a surprise to me to see him getting picked up here in the first pick slot over someone maybe like a Raynor, who was pretty overpowered last patch. He did get a little bit of a nerf, so maybe that's why they're not going into that. Deathwing and Ariel still both very popular picks, even though they both got banned recently as well, so we'll have to see what they can make of that. On the other side, we have Anduin and Blaze getting picked out from ProBUs. These are pretty common picks. They both these two have been played by ProBUs quite a few times in previous Heroes of the Storm games, so I'm not at all surprised to see them getting picked up here. Kael'thas and Stukov both go very well with Leoric. Kael'thas loves a stationary target, and Leo can provide that really well. And with Stukov and the Lurking Arm, you can get basically buried alive, except at level 10. Which obviously is very strong. It's a level 20 upgrade that you can set up at level 10, so really nice pickup there from Night Knight. We'll have to try to keep an eye out for that combo as we get forward into this first game. Gonna have Garrosh get banned out. That's 3 main tanks getting banned out from ProBUs, really trying to limit what their opponents can do. I'm guessing then that 8-Bit will be playing the Blaze in the main tank role. He hasn't been played in the offlane role very much in quite a long time, so generally what you expect to see him doing these days. And on the other hand side, there's the Deathwing ban. Not terribly surprised to see that coming in. He's still very strong even with all the nerfs, and even if he's not overpowered, he just makes you play so differently that a lot of people don't like having to shift their composition to deal with it.
It's a perfect day for some mayhem.
But it looks like they would have been ready to deal with it, as they've picked up the Greymane and the Junkrat Greymane with the Curse Bullet, obviously one of the strongest Deathwing counters in the game. And Junkrat is good if you're good on him, but he's especially good on this map because he's got basically infinite stall, and with the Concussion Mine, you can get the vision necessary to provide that stall as well. So a very powerful hero specifically for this map. And finally, what is John Goodman going to pick up with Miles? We have Genji and Muradin. Genji's a bit of a surprising pick. I don't see Genji played very much at all these days. And Muradin, he's a good, second tier kind of tank. Obviously, ETC and Joe, the generally considered tier 1 tanks, have already been banned out, so we're not going to be seeing any of them in this match. Really interested, especially in the Genji pick, however. You can get good value using X-Strike onto the Entombs. I wonder if that's how we're going to see him being played. And Chaos Tank picking up the Dahaka for that Soul Lane. Probably going to be having Dahaka and either Greymane or Junkrat in the Soul Lanes. I don't know who's going to be playing the off Soul Lane for I Must Feed, however. Maybe Genji? He's not very good at it, though. Obviously, you don't want your healer doing it. Maybe they're going to be trying to rotate. Super important now. Got to check out the portrait synergies. We've got 5 probes from ProBUs, and we've got 5 piggies from I Must Feed. So, gotta say, really well done on the portrait synergy for both teams. So, if you're out there in Twitch chat land, let me know who you think is who's got the edge going into game number 1. I believe going into the regular season of NGS, ProBUs did have a bit of an advantage, but I Must Feed have definitely rounded out their play in the recent weeks. And speaking of I Must Feed, we're going to start with them on the right-hand side in the red trunks, with Miles playing the Genji, Night Knight playing the Stukov, John Goodman playing the Muradin, Sudden Bears playing Leoric, and Lister Fiend on Kael'thas. On the other hand side, we've got Chaos Tank playing the Dahaka, 8-Bit is playing Blaze, Desda is playing Anduin, not running with scissors by the way, John Bunyan is the Junkrat, and Secret Asian Man is playing the Greymane. Got the GLHFs coming out, and we're going to do the thing we always do and check out the level 1 talents. The left-hand side, I would say generally all pretty standard, with maybe the exception of not going into bold strategy on the Anduin, going to the Renew instead. On the other hand, though, we've got actually Dwarf blocks, so getting those block charges every time you use Dwarf Toss, maybe going to a full E build, which I've heard recently has been doing pretty well to shake up the Muradin meta, but I haven't seen it very much myself. And we've got the Embedded Touch quest coming out, trying to get these W stacks on Stukov as well, and looks like we're not going to be having a 1-3-1 for I Must Feed, instead opting to do a 4-1 rotation between mid and top. Sorry, my phone, which I was using for Twitch chat, just decided it did want to be on an even order, even though it's getting charged right now. So if you're out there in Twitch chat land, I'm sorry I won't be able to see it until I can get that charged up a little bit more, as we have the camps getting taken from both hand side, going a little bit faster for ProBUs as they've got a little more dedication to it. And then in the top lane, we actually have Muradin is holding it down. Not your best, very little wave clear, but he's got enough sustain with that second win that really there's not a lot that Chaos Tank is going to be able to do about it, but really John Goodman can't do much about it either. On the bot hand, we have John Bunyan, who has the wave clear that Sudden Bears won't get until level 4, but Sudden Bears does have the sustain and the ability to step up, which, since the introduction of the XP globes, has become so important. We do have a little bit of an engagement coming out onto Stukov, and Night Knight is going to offer up the first kill over to the opponent's side, as they did have the armor cut coming from the Null minions in the mid lane. Very well done by the side of ProBUs. Level 4 talents coming in now. Continuing to go Essence, which is pretty standard on Dahaka. We do have Neil Peasants coming out from Leo, so going to be able to do a lot better of a job at soaking the lanes, and probably too big of a map to do double soak Leo things, but still definitely going to be very helpful. We do have a Hearth coming out from 8-Bit just before the objectives. Timer is going to start coming in, so well timed by them. But both teams generally playing a pretty passive game so far, just trying to soak the lanes, not trying to go too hard for the ganks. We do have Trap Build, the Chattering Teeth coming out from Junkrat. Always really impressive when they can use the Concussion Grenade to knock people into the trap. Always really cool to see that, and also very effective because you get the displacement followed by the root, which is a very powerful combination. And we're going in for the Divine Star talent on level 4. I think that's probably a pretty safe choice considering how aggressive Genji can be if he wants to. You don't want to go into the Inner Fire necessarily, because you're not going to be able to get the auto attacks off as safely. We do have Leo in the top lane, which is a little bit of a surprise. Going to be able to match Chaos Tank, but won't be able to match his rotation speed. Obviously, being able to use the burrow to get down here much faster. Miles just kind of walks aggressively at John Bunyan, but neither team really finding anything. Both teams taking their camp again. Once again, though, a little bit faster for ProBUs, and that will give them a little bit of early positioning onto this point here. Miles trying to get the interrupt, but some really good body blocking from 8-Bit is going to prevent that from happening. A little bit of damage coming out onto John Goodman. A little bit of flub CC means he's going to be able to dwarf toss out of there just fine, as we have the 4 versus 4 fight going on. Both teams hitting level 7 at this point, and Night Knight is not going to be able to get the stall. Really good Q. Good Q coming out from Blaze to get the interrupt there. I couldn't remember what that's called. And Leo coming into the back trying to get something done, but that is going to be the first objective going in favor of ProBUs. But are they able to get out alive? The Secret Asian Man gets brought down pretty low, but Muradin is pretty low as well, and they're both going to fall basically at the same time. 8-Bit is fairly low. Genji, seeing if he can get something done, is going to be able to get something done. Gets the reset to try and go in on Cast Tank, but the Chattering Teeth are going to make it so that that will not happen. And that brings us even on kills, 2 for 2, but first objective going over in favor of ProBUs. Flame Stream. Thank you, Talents, for telling me that. We've got Skullcracker actually coming out from Muradin. That's a bit of an interesting choice. I don't see that very often these days, but to be fair, I don't see Muradin very often these days. Look to see the teams putting most of their attention into the top and bottom lanes, as these are the boss lanes, and ever since the changes made to this map a while back, the bosses are actually pretty good. Previously it used to be good only to focus on the mid lane because of how strong the camp was. We did have the attempt to boot John Goodman into the Chittering Teeth trap, but just off the mark by a little bit is going to see him getting out of there just barely. The objectives are all destroyed. They only get the front wall and the healing fountain, so not a whole lot done from that first objective. Check out mid lane, a little bit of damage, bottom lane. Did get all of the front wall, so about as much as you would expect, but we actually have about a half a level XP lead at this point going over to I Must Feed, so losing the objective but gaining XP is definitely how you want to handle this map. Once again, both teams going over to take their camps, being very safe, and without either team finding any kills, they really can't really try to do more than that. They could try to take a team fight, but there's no advantage for them at this point, as you do have the level 10s now coming in for I Must Feed just a little bit early. 8-Bit actually walking up a little bit far is going to get Storm Bolted out of his Jet Propulsion, but not going to find anything from him. We have the Dragon Blade and not the X-Strike coming out from Genji. The Flailing Swipe, Phoenix, Entomb, and Avatar form, so no big surprises there. Bunker, Riptire, Curse Bullet getting used just there. The Light Bomb, and To Be Determined coming out of Dahaka. I've been seeing a lot more Bunker drop these days as opposed to the Combustion. I don't think anything got changed, just the meta seeming to favor the Bunker over the Combustion these days, as we have Isolation getting picked up from Dahaka as well. Good job on ProBUs, just getting the XP soaked a little bit more in their favor, but when this wave goes down, that'll probably bring them back to the lead that they had before. But that means that ProBUs are slightly ahead in the rotations, trying to make their opponents lose a bit of XP with their superior wave clear, but just not quite finding it. Cast Tank taking quite a bit of damage in the bottom lane, getting into the bush. I think he's trying to convince them that they're hearthing out so that he can get and soak in the bottom lane as the objective is coming up, as we see 8-Bit coming down here to try and aid in that as well. So, Mind Game's not quite working out there for Chaos Tank, but he does still have the burrow up available, so they will be able to soak a little bit, as Leo has already gone back. We have both teams positioning defensively around their own objective points, which is going to give the overall advantage, I think, to ProBUs slightly, because they do have the global power from Dahaka. Once again, both teams taking their camps on cooldown, being very respectful of the macro pressure that the null camps can provide in this map. This time getting picked up slightly faster for I Must Feed, as they had more, they had 3 people taking it instead of just the 2 that they had on the other hand side. Dahaka did back for full health, but is still heading towards the bottom lane. An interesting play. If this gets identified by I Must Feed, they can go pretty hard on the objective. Curse Bullet getting used and missing. Going to go ahead and hide Talents for just a little bit, as it's likely we're going to have a team fight coming up real soon, as we have the Chattering Teeth into the Jet Propulsion coming out, putting some good damage onto John Goodman, but he gets spooked out of there, and we do have the dig in from Chaos Tank, making this into an even 5 versus 5. I think he was trying to put some pressure out into that bottom lane, because it's already pretty low and the whole wall is down, but not actually finding anything, and it's a very long cooldown to try and get that burrow back up. A little bit of an engagement attempt coming out onto 8-Bit. Does drop Bunker just for a little bit of additional safety. 8-Bit does miss the Jet Propulsion. Listerfiend gets drug out of position pretty hard. There goes the Entomb, not actually finding anyone. The Riptire comes out, is only going to hit onto Miles, who actually got the deflect, so no damage done there. Dahaka brings the Murden out of position, but he's still got the Avatar form. The silence coming out from the isolation, and the Light Bomb is going to find first kill. However, the Dragon Blade comes out and finds a return kill onto the Blaze. However, the Tongue Drag is going to get Miles. However, he's got the jump away. That Shimada privilege is going to see him getting out of there, and that's a 1-for-1 trade. Both teams picking up their level 13s and not actually finding any significant advantage. Camps are available once again. We see I Must Feed going over to get the camps. And ProBUs kind of just being a little bit defensive, not identifying that their opponents have rotated out, so they're going to be slow getting the counter camp. Chaos Tank and Sudden Bears in the top lane just trying to get that XP, trying to get them ever closer to some kind of advantage, as now their team really has one at this point. All the buildings and all of the talent tiers, even for both teams. Primal Swarm is a bit of an old school talent. Murden just kind of eating that trap just so that it's not going to have any impact going into the later parts of this team fight. We have Dahaka, who's ambled all the way into the bottom lane to try and put pressure into that bottom fort. Murden goes in. He did get the Cursed Bullet, but the Avatar form comes out to kind of bring him back to a regular amount of health. 8-Bit gets put in the Entomb, but is going to dodge a lot of damage with the Bunker Drop. We do have the Burrow coming in. Sorry about the dog there. 8-Bit gets brought down very low, gets a little bit of a shield from the Light Bomb, but is going to fall anyway. Night Knight dropping the silence is going to prevent Chaos Tank from re-engaging. Secret Asian Man gets brought down very low as well. Sudden Bear's Wraith forming in there is going to get some damage out onto Secret Asian Man, but not finding a kill. The Hawken gets brought down very low. The Cursed Bullet comes out doing extra damage out onto John Goodman, and Night Knight in the back does get the channel, and this is going to be channel time going in favor of I Must Feed. John Bunyan barely avoiding that flame strike, would have brought him down very low. This is a position that can be re-engaged on, however. Everyone's coming back up just now. It'll be an even fight for both teams, but that's probably a fight that ProBUs are going to want to try and take, although there's only 10 seconds left. They might not actually be able to get the interrupt, and John Bunyan's a little bit split off from the rest of his team. Only the one ult is available and getting used right away. Chaos Tank trying to get the interrupt. Looks like they're just trying to decide to take the team fight and let the objective go, as John Bunyan, a little bit of a bad position, not able to provide the support damage to get any of the kills, and we do have the first kill going out onto Anduin. A huge Riptire is going to do a lot of damage, but not actually likely to find any kills. We do have John Goodman looking for the kill out onto Secret Asian Man. Sudden Bears tries to find it, but is not able to get it, getting rid of barely 100 health, overextending a lot, and John Bunyan trying to find the counter kill out on a Sudden Bears, not able to find it again. Secret Asian Man looking for something, not finding it again, and that is going to be the second objective after a very protracted fight going over in favor of I Must Feed, inching them closer to that level 16 talent here where they can really try and take an advantageous fight. th now coming in. We've got the full Drain Hope build coming out from the Leoric, going into the range on 7, cooldown reduction on 13, and extra damage at the end on 16. Miles going in for a bit of aggressive engagement, shall we say. Secret Asian Man not quite spreading that bomb. There we go. There's the level 10 buried alive that we're looking to see. Desda did try to get the save in there with the life grip, but not quite able to find it, and this is almost certainly going to be first keep falling. Mid and bottom lane are already defended, however. Secret Asian Man not quite able to get in the bunker. That is a very scary position for ProBUs, as we've got the first kill that does go out onto Genji. Night Knight is pretty low, but I don't think John Bunyan's going to be able to find it without having the Riptire. Sudden Bear's just chunking damage into this keep to make sure that it falls, make sure that this push was not in vain, and there it does fall. John Bunyan looking to try and get some damage in, but that is the full engage coming out from I Must Feed. Not quite the full disengage, as 8-Bit did find that jet propulsion, but not able to find any follow-up, so 1 for 1, and losing the fort and keep in the top lane is not actually that bad at this point in the game. They could have lost a lot more, and both teams just continue to pay a lot of respect for each other, as we do not see either team trying to go for a boss at this point, which usually in these mid to later game kind of objectives on this map you tend to see because they are so far apart. But with Genji being dead at the end of that objective, ooh, looks like they're looking at doing it now, but it's spotted immediately. Dahaka is in the top lane scouting out the other boss, but he's probably got the tunneling claws up, so he'll be able to get on this team fight if it's determined that they're going to make a real engagement. We do have an engagement coming out onto Night Knight. The Riptire mostly hitting John Goodman, who did previously get hit with the Cursed Bullet. Chaos Tank does burrow down here, which gets him here ahead of Kael'thas. Jet Propulsion goes out, the Tongue Drag goes out on the John Goodman, but he's able to get on out of there. For the most part, I think he might be blocked by the Entomb. 8-Bit gets brought down very low, and there's the extra damage coming out from Sudden Bears. Chaos Tank does get the Light Bomb put on him, only gets the stun out onto one. That's a lot of R buttons being popped. Really, the only very impactful one left is the Dragon Blade for either team. Flailing Swipe is pretty good disengage, but it's not, it's a reactive ability, not a proactive one like a lot of the others. We do have Curse Bullet back off cooldown, but this is slight advantage for Emma's Feed with their health bars, as we did see 8-Bit having to back up. Ooh, a little bit of a misstep coming out from John Bunyan. Did go in with the boot, but actually put Muradin in a favorable position. John Bunyan is able to actually get a lot of damage as no one's kind of turning on him. Night Knight gets brought down very low. The Jet Propulsion is huge, hitting out onto several, and there comes the Dragon Blade, chunking damage into Secret Asian Man, who will be the first to fall. 8-Bit likely going to be the second. Oh, and the Deflect gets the kill out as well onto Junkrat. Desda trying to get out of there. Ooh, that heal might not allow them to get out of there, just barely does, but that is the 4-for-0. Camp does get secured, but it should be very easy for someone to unsecure that camp in their favor. Opting actually to take the aggressive opponent's camp. You don't see that very often on this map because of how defensively positioned it is, but well, I mean, when you're already on the left-hand side of the map and you've got 4 kills, you might as well. I'm a little bit surprised actually that they opted for that camp over the boss in the bottom lane, but you know, they could honestly do either or both at this point, but looking for just a very safe play of get the camp, get the objective, tap up, and try to make a very aggressive push, looks like into the bottom lane. This camp is getting cleaned up by Anduin. There will be 5 people available for the defense, however there is level 20s pushing in for Emma's Feed, so it's going to be a very dangerous push for ProBUs to try and defend at this point. There was a huge wave in the top lane that did get cleared up by Secret Asian Man and Chaos Tank, but that is going to be an objective barreling into the core in the top lane and the keep in the bottom lane. Mid lane is probably going to fall without any defense, and they shouldn't be trying to defend it. They need to defend the keeps instead, as the keeps do provide armor to the core. 20 armor for every keep that is still up and available, so it currently has 40 armor, and it's pretty hard to take down when it's got that 40 armor. When you get down to 20, it's a lot easier to kill. Got the very early Riptire coming out, heading out onto Muradin and Sudden Bears. Both of the tanks getting chunked down very low. John Bunyan getting brought down, and that is the flamethrower value, that extra range allowing him to get the kill out on the Junkrat. Huge damage coming out from the Buried Alive. Secret Asian Man gets engaged upon by Miles and is going to be the third to fall after Anduin. And that is certainly bottom keep falling, and likely the core as well, as we have only 2 people left to try and make the defense, and it's only the tank and the bruiser. There goes the 20 armor cut coming out, and it's still 30 seconds until Junkrat comes out, and there's a 5 versus 2, and that is going to be game number 1 going in favor of I Must Feed, showing just excellent late game teamfight control. Ooh, core chunking out a lot of damage, but not quite going to do enough. It does get the kill out onto Night Knight. Wasn't her only death, so it wasn't like that was a huge impactful kill coming out from the core, but that is game number 1 going to I Must Feed. Check out the post-game screen. John Bunyan chunking out the damage, but Kael'thas was creeping up from behind, but the really big disparity in that game coming in the healing numbers, with Night Knight more than doubling that of Desda. Didn't actually check the rest of the talents super closely. Going into the Speed of the Pious and Even-Handed Blessings. Not my favorite Anduin build, but still very capable of chunking out the healing numbers. And the level 20s, we did see Dragon Becomes Me with the Rewind. We saw the Buried Alive, we noted the Flamethrower, and there was a little bit of controlled chaos in there, but not a huge game-breaking ability. Alrighty, and we're going to find out now who, or rather where we're going and what it is that 8-Bit is going to want for game number 2. And it's been probably 15 minutes or so since my phone died. We're at 14%, so let's see if it'll actually stay on and turn on this time. If you can hear that, that is the sound of my phone turning on. Alrighty, now if I must feed, I just want an Alterac, and I have map pick. Where do I want to go? I want to go to Garden of Terror. I think Garden of Terror might be the map that is most like Alterac Pass, and they played that map very well. And because this is XGDI, it's in the map pool. It is not on my overlay because it was made for NGS, and yeah, so I'm not very technically minded, so I'm not super able to make that kind of adaptation, and we do not find ourselves on Garden of Terror. A little bit of a disappoint. I like that map quite a bit. But we find ourselves actually on Battlefield of Eternity, a much more commonly played map for sure. And I have it on the overlay, so that's always pretty nice. Bringing up the Twitch chat now. If you've been saying things in the Twitch chat, I'm very sorry. Got a couple of follows today. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that very much. Got 7? Wow, 7 viewers, and I don't even have my co-caster. You should... There must be a dearth of Heroes of the Storm content. Is Bahamut not streaming right now? He can't be streaming right now or anything, because there's no way I would have 7 people here without my co-caster. I am not a good solo caster, but I appreciate everyone for being here anyway. Thank you so much. We have Ektar. I appreciate that, 8-bit. 9 viewers. Get out of town. Wow. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Oops. There we go. Drop the lobby link in the chat so we can get the members of ProBUs in here. Looks like because they have made the lobby, I must feed, that is, they have swapped sides, so we use our switch team sides button. Actually, no. ProBUs is on the left. I didn't mess this up, did I? Okay, no. You can't even see that. That's okay, though. Anywho, we got both teams in the lobby. Gonna drop the good old caster R, let them know that we are ready as well. And get ourselves into game number 2, Battlefield of Eternity, chosen by I Must Feed. Now, the next obvious caster question is, ProBUs now opting for first pick. What do they pick? I've never seen ProBUs play ProBUs, so likely not going for the ProBUs pick. I think that probably Zool is banned, considering he is bugged currently. I don't remember if we put him on the ban list in NGS because we're currently in the off season. But if you're unfamiliar, currently with the rework, Zool's skeletons explode upon death baseline, but currently they're exploding twice, which is not intended and makes them do actually a lot more damage than you would otherwise expect as we find ourselves going into the draft. Once again, Battlefield of Eternity. I like this map as a spectator because it changes the dynamic a lot because of the way the objective functions, where you have to just deal damage, and also because it's a 2-lane map, so you can run strategies that are different compared to the bigger 3-lane maps, which have a channel-style objective. So you tend to see a lot more Artanis, a lot more W-Wield Hanzo, a lot more Vala, things that can deal damage to stationary targets really well. But once again, going in with the ETC ban, probably then going to follow it up with the Johanna ban, just trying to get the standard tanks out of there, and it looks like they want to get Desda off of that comfort pick Anduin. Was very impactful, definitely got a couple of good saves with the life grip, and Light Bomb is an incredible ult, and I'm surprised that it hasn't ever been nerfed. But that's just my personal opinion, because I'm a big Anduin fanboy. You might call me Fanduin. Don't ever do that. I feel bad for making that joke. But this is what happens when I don't have anyone to temper my dad jokes. So once again, we do have the Johanna getting banned out. As expected, coming out from ProBUs. They like to force people off of the standard tanks, and yeah, for the most part, the Blaze worked out pretty well from them in the previous game, so I think it's a valid strategy. It's somewhat akin to in chess, where both players decide, or one player decides, I'm going to sacrifice my queen to take your queen, and we're just going to play the game out from there. It's a very skill-testing kind of a mutually assured destructive decision. And once again, the Deathwing ban coming out from I Must Feed. Deathwing, as before, warps the game, even if he's not really overpowered. Makes games play out differently. John Bunyan picking up the Li Ming. This is another one of those heroes that gets a lot of value on this map, just because she can chunk out damage very safely, even if it's not fast damage onto the objective. She can do it very safely, so that's very good in a lot of positions. And Tyrande additionally gets more value on this map for the Hunter's Mark. Greymane gets value on every map, so I'm never surprised to see a Greymane getting picked up. Raynor is very powerful. He got buffed 2 patches ago with his Executioner doing even more damage, so able to put out a ton of immortal damage. And Arthas making me think maybe Raynor will not be going into Executioner and will be staying with Ace in the Hole, which has always been an incredible talent. Alrighty, bans coming in now from I Must Feed. Who do I think that they should ban? They don't yet have a healer. They've already shown a proclivity to ban a healer. And they have a healer. So I would say Ana. Nailed it! Yeah. Anyone that's wondering, Ana is a nice safe poke hero. This is a safe poke kind of a map, and nano boosted Li Ming is terrifying, so not surprised to see Ana getting banned out. Also, Tyrande doesn't have the world's highest healing throughput, so being able to shave off even a little bit of healing from Tyrande is a very big deal. And I would like to see a Diablo ban, but it's going to be the variant instead. Very similar reasoning for that ban, I have to imagine, because Taunt variant is a very easy stun to follow up for with Tyrande. So I like that ban coming out from them as well. Sudden Bears is reprising that Leoric role, and I would like to see Diablo personally, because I think it's a generally good tank on this map. Good wallbang potential, but also another easy stun for Tyrande to follow up on.
I'm here to help.
Ooh, Jaina. That makes me think it's Diablo even more. Diablo Jaina's been a comp since like the pre-alpha days. So I like to see what's shaping up coming out from I Must Feed. That is a surprise pair of picks coming out from ProBUs, though. The Kharazim Garrosh. Kharazim does get some additional value for the same reasons that all the damaging kind of heroes do on this map. But pairing it with the Garrosh means that Arthas is probably going to be in the soul lane against Leo. And they're really going to be looking to blow up single targets. They're going to be looking for Garrosh Q into Wrecking Ball into 7-sided onto a target that can't get away, which is anyone that's not Muradin, who is the tank that's going to be picking up for I Must Feed. Again, I think Muradin is a pretty good tank. You can never be too upset with a Muradin, but generally speaking, I feel there's a tank that does his role better. In this case, oh, I've made my opinion pretty clear. So, I would have to say I give drafting advantage in favor of I Must Feed in this situation. They have a slightly easier comp to pilot, and I think that's always something to bring up in these amateur Heroes of the Storm leagues, is if you have 2 teams of even skill, but they draft, one team drafts a comp with a higher burden of execution, that just means that they might have a higher peak potential, and I think that ProBUs do have that, but it means I Must Feed can be more effective easier. But we have now spawning on the left-hand side in the blue trunks the losers of game number 1. They are ProBUs with Secret Asian Man playing Jim Raynor, John Bunyan showing off the power of Aether Walker on the Li Ming, 8-Bit is playing the Garrosh, we have Desda playing the Karazim, and Chaos Tank playing the solo lane Arthas. And on the right-hand side, in the red trunks, victors of game number 1 on match point, they are I Must Feed with John Goodman playing the Muradin, Night Knight playing the Tyrande, Miles playing Greymane, Lister Fiend playing the Frost Mage, and Sudden Bears playing Leoric once again. As we are wont to do, we're going to check out the level 1 talents. It is Exterminator, sorry, I said Executioner, that's the level 20 talent. The Exterminator talent coming out from Secret Asian Man, so not looking to get the ace in the hole value with Arthas, but looking to get the siege damage value instead. We've got Go Probes coming out from Tuna Breath, and we've got Night Knight, who was mid-draft at the time, I believe. We got 8-Bit actually doing a really nice Garrosh combo onto John Goodman. I think North Toss was interrupted there, so getting chunked out for a lot of damage. Secret Asian Man taking quite a bit as well. Actually, 8-Bit getting brought down pretty low as well. Secret Asian Man does pop the E, which is going to get them topped off nice and quick, and John Goodman once again going into the Dwarf block, so second wind is going to be topping him off. Doesn't have the third wind to get him fully back quite as quickly. But this is something that is going to be very important during a lot of the early parts of the game, and that is the wave clear potential. Because this is a 2-lane map, you don't have to worry about rotations, so Jaina can just really just sit there and chuck out a blizzard on cooldown every time that a wave comes in. And that's all the wave clear that you need, realistically speaking. 8-Bit taking quite a bit of damage, but able to walk out pretty decently. I think he already tapped, however, so the next time they have an engagement is likely going to have to go all the way back at this point. We do have Miles going in there for taking the camp already, as Lister Fiend provides all the wave clear in the world. Does get pushed away from the globe, however, and that's going to be a slight advantage going over in favor of IMS Feed, or sorry, of ProBUs. And now they actually see that their opponents had already taken some of the damage on this camp, are going to come in and steal it the rest of the way. John Goodman does try to jump in, get some damage onto 8-Bit, however, the Dwarf Toss being used means he doesn't have an escape, and he is going to be the first to fall. 8-Bit pretty low as well. Miles looking to get the kill, however, the Ming set come in and finding the second kill. That is the 2-for-0, and it gives 8-Bit free reign to go back and really not lose any value. In the top lane, pretty unsurprisingly, we have Sudden Bears winning pretty convincingly. Anytime he can get the Spooky Hand onto Chaos Tank, that is going to be a pretty big advantage for him, as there's no way that Arthas can keep up in either wave clear or self-sustain, especially going into the block on level 1. Going into Icy Talons, a little bit of an interesting pick. Definitely the normal for Bruiser Arthur instead of main tank Arthas. But still makes him a little bit less effective during a lot of these team fights. Both teams going over and taking their Bruiser camp, doing it just basically at almost the same time for both teams. Neither team opting to hold on to their camp to try and get the later camp spawn, as we have I Must Feed in aggressive positions, as we have aggressive positions for ProBUs as well. Both teams getting into the race immediately. However, we have 5 members racing for ProBUs, but only 3 members racing for I Must Feed, so that is advantage to ProBUs going into halftime, but not by as much as you might think. Immortal spawning in aggressive positions, so immediate charge and stun coming out, or rather stun coming out from 8-Bit. Did have the follow-up stun coming out on the Secret Asian Man, does pop the E. A little bit of body blocking coming out from Desda. A lot of damage getting put out onto the Immortal for ProBUs, but they don't have a really good position to actually aggress in and finish this camp, but that's what the power of Li Ming is for. She can just sit here in this position right here and just chunk out orbs and missiles, and eventually over time take down the Immortals. We do have, oh boy, Angry Doggers is what we have. Night Knight does get thrown, but is able to walk on out of there. Arthas coming in from the back, putting in some pretty good damage into John Goodman. Big boss stun coming out, and not quite able to stop the boss from getting picked up from ProBUs, but a couple hundred hit points in favor of them. They didn't need to lose just by virtue of the boss stun. 8-Bit trying to chase down John Goodman, does find the throw into stun. John Goodman does get the toss on out of there. Arthas with a really big root, however. John Goodman, 120 health, is barely going to be able to waddle on out of there, as we have the Immortal now spawning in the top lane. A little bit of a slow rotation on up here. I heard you the first time you said you're going to march for Hell's Gates, Mr. Immortal. 8-bit is a little bit low, is going to want to go and tap. However, that means that the Immortal in the top lane is going to get chunked out very hard before he's able to position aggressively to try and make anything happen. With actually a lot of damage getting put on his Secret Asian Man. Not seeing the Into the Fray used there to try and get him out. Desda is going to be the next to fall. John Bunyan is able to blink on out of there. 8-bit. Pops the Unstoppable. Looks like they might have tried to go for a cheeky throw combo onto John Goodman, but just not quite finding it. Chaos Tank actually putting some pretty good damage into Sudden Bears now that he has the level 4, giving him that extra auto attack speed. But this is seeing him chunk through his mana very hard. Looks like he is going to go all the way back. John Bunyan coming down to the bottom lane to try and hold the XP, maybe. Kind of dancing back and forth. But we've got a big push in the top lane as we have slight XP advantage going in favor of I Must Feed as they were able to pick up that camp as the objective finished. And a lot of pressure coming in. That is going to be the towers falling with this camp still as well. We have 4 people now here for the defenses. We have Leeming in the bottom lane trying to contest with Leora. Chaos Tank maybe trying to find something. Not actually going for anything, just stepping up using the Frozen Tempest to make some space for his team to clear out that camp. Bit of a rotation coming out from both sides. That's one of the things about this map is the rotation distance is so long. It's very easy to identify that the enemy team is missing and let your team know that they're missing before the gank attempt would actually be here. Night is able to disengage just by moving away. Pick up the Kelderai resistance going in for the extra spell armor on level 4, or sorry, level 7. Pretty standard talent pickup these days. We have actually the full Frostbolt build coming out from Jane. A bit of an interesting variation, not going in for the Globes on one, which is definitely the more standard level 1 talent. Big combo coming out onto 8-bit as they pop the Unstoppable to try and get out of there, but Greymane's Fellclaw is coming in there and is going to find the kill out onto him. Desda gets stunned out as well, and the follow-up stun maybe not quite landing, but definitely would have secured the kill from Night as well. Really well done from her. As we have the level 10s coming in slightly earlier, once again we have the Cursed Bullet avatar form going into the Entomb, the Water Elemental, and we've got the Starfall coming in. We have the first halftime getting picked up for the side of I Must Feed, as ProBUs, knowing that they can't try to engage at all without level 10s. Objective is spawning in defensive positions. We're going to have the level 10s on the defense right now. Arthas not quite here yet for the defenses. We have the 10s getting picked up from them. We've got the 7-sided strike as expected, Warlord's Challenge, the Wave of Force, Hyperion, and To Be Determined coming out from Arthas, who waddles down in the bottom lane to try and clear out this lane that's down here. Going in for a bit of an aggressive push as they've seen that their opponents are likely on their Bruiser camp, seeing that it is a 4v2 for the moment. Trying to find a throw and blow up combo. 8-bit gets put in the Entomb, however, pops the Unstoppable. You can't unstoppably your way through a wall, and the excellent follow-up damage coming in from Night gets taken out herself, but is going to ensure that Chaos Tank falls as well. The 3-for-1 coming out in favor of I Must Feed is Desda likely going to be able to fall. Oh, got the Radiant Dash out, but that is going to be them definitely picking up the objective. However, we did see Army of the Dead getting picked up during that team fight, and that is going to be the second objective going over in favor of I Must Feed, definitely showing that they have leveled up since the end of NGS season. God, 8 I think we were in? Why can I never remember what season is what? I've never remembered correctly. Leo going into the bottom lane just to clear that camp a little bit, make sure that they don't lose out too much damage into the bottom lane, as we have the globes being spawned, not quite giving Lister Fiend the confidence that they have enough mana going forward, so going to go all the way back. Pretty healthy Immortal, but they're I Must Feed not really in a fantastic position to try and push aggressively yet, as their Greymane is just getting here and Jaina is still several seconds behind. Likely not going to get identified by the members of ProBUs, so it shouldn't make a huge deal, but if it was identified, they could have tried to push past the Immortal, as they are even on talent tiers, and the Immortal is not the most threatening. Lister Fiend in a pretty aggressive position, going for the damage out into that well, not able to provide a lot of additional value in that team fight. And Tomb going out onto 8-bit, Cursed Bullet getting a ton of value. The 7-sided hitting out onto a bunch of people, not hitting out consecutively onto one person, is the Water Elemental and Lister Fiend trying to chase down 8-bit. Chaos Tank getting a big slow on the whole team of I Must Feed, but is going to give their lives over for it as we have the objective now barreling into the bottom lane. Likely only going to get the keep wall here, as the water elemental is just ending and only Starfall is still available. Not even getting the entirety of the keep wall, as they're just going to take the damage that they got, soak the XP in the top lane, and start on this camp in the bottom lane. So just content to get the damage that they got and not push in too aggressively. John Goodman taking the anchor position just to see if ProBUs tries to make the aggressive camp defense. They have successfully identified or predicted what their opponents are doing and saying, we're not going to try and take that camp, we're going to take this other camp instead. 8-Bit trying and finding a combo, but ton of damage actually coming out. That's exactly what they want to see. Maybe without the Warlord's challenge bit at the end, a little bit of whipped ult there, but that's the kind of blow-up comp that they drafted it. It's the first time that we've seen it at the 10-minute and 20-odd second mark. Not generally how often you want to be getting your combos to connect. But, you know, when it works real well, as you saw there. Like, Leo got the Wraith form, but still not able to sneak away from all that damage. 13's now getting picked up for both sides. Let's go ahead and check it out as we have the full Calamity build coming out from Li Ming. Not a surprise at all. A little bit of aggression coming out. Actually, Garrosh going into the double up. I very rarely see this talent chosen, but thanks to Valkymer, I can confirm that Garrosh cannot ever get to 100 armor. He can only get up to 99, as he's going to need all of it to survive this engagement. He survives for a very long time, actually. Not even going down quite yet. Night Knight is the first to fall. 8-Bit does get brought down in the end, but survives way longer than I think that he had any right to. As looking at the health bars, pretty even for both sides. However, that is an advantage for I Must Feed, as they still have a well in the top lane, which they're going to be able to use to top themselves off and maybe re-engage, looking just to try and race instead, as we have the Inner Beast being used and popping the... Actually, they don't have a Night Knight available, so they're not going to have the Hunter's Mark, and that is actually the first half going in favor of ProBUs for, I think, the first time. Looks like both teams meeting in the bottom lane, trying to make the aggress and the defense, respectively. John Goodman going in for the aggressive damage. A lot of people get rooted in there. John Goodman is down very low. Miles is low as well. Chaos Tank is going to be the first to be brought down in this teamfight. Miles escaping with barely 75 hit points as Dez does the second to fall. John Goodman already popping the double up is going to get chased down another. John Goodman is going to find the kill with the assistance of the Water Elemental, and that is going to be Stormbolt quest getting finished off. And that is going to be the third consecutive objective going in favor of I Must Feed. ProBUs showing some signs of life during that last team fight, but just not quite able to bring it together during the second half of that team fight. Secret Asian Man really just trying to get the shielding off of the Immortal as best as they can, especially because they have Miles over here taking this camp instead, so they actually don't have a very fast race. As Jaina, her consistent damage did get nerfed a while back with the nerf to Ice Lance. But once again, Lister Fiend is going to be full backing for mana, which means that there will be a little bit of time for ProBUs to try and make an aggressive defense on here, but let's see if they identify that opportunity that they have. Go ahead and hide talents for a bit, as it's going to be a hot minute until ProBUs actually have their 16s. Deciding to make the very safe call to just abandon this fort, knowing that all of the ults are available for their opponents, could just try to go past the fort and blow somebody up, as they've done so many times in these two games so far, and instead try to just make the defense at the keep, as we already have the keep front wall falling. Secret Asian Man popping the Hyperion just for the siege damage potential, and honestly that's what it's best at, so you'll love to see it, as we have the 5-person defense coming in for ProBUs, getting a decent Warbreaker, and Desda and Secret Asian Man getting caught out. Secret Asian Man is the one that's going to get blown up first. 8-Bit gets brought down very low as well. Does get saved initially by Desda, who popped the 7-sided strike to try and keep themselves alive. Does successfully. Miles gets brought down very low. John Goodman gets thrown to the side. Dwarf tosses away. Objective is still at about half of its red health. But unless I Must Feed find another kill here, they probably can't actually try to end here. At least not very safely. Chaos Tank going in for the engagement. Desda trying to find some damage. Sudden Bears is the next to fall. 8-Bit is in deep. If he's able to find a stun on anyone, is going to secure another kill. Lister Fiend is going to be the next to fall. John Bunyan He got the additional health with the dominance coming in, try to get the interrupt on the mounting, and is looking for blood. The rest of his team not quite as bloodthirsty as he is, however, might get turned around. There is the engagement, the Stormbolt, and the kill coming out. 8-Bit not quite as quick with the re-engagement as the Aether Walker Leeming, and I Must Feed around full retreat. I don't know how Miles gets out of here. It probably has something to do with Night Knight providing the stun, not actually finding it. We have the Entomb coming out, not able to, rather securing the kill onto Garrosh, as we did have Sudden Bears respawning with that Leoric trait, getting another nice stun from Night Knight, but really just looking for stacks at this point. 15 of them, that's a lot of extra damage coming out on all of those stuns. So, real messy team fight. Hard to say who that favors in the end. It's probably going to be I Must Feed because they got to keep some core damage out of it, but ProBUs is still in there. And it's a long time until either team gets 20. They're likely going to be able to take a team fight before 20, and that's probably best case scenario for them. Both teams picking up their camps right as the objectives are coming, looking for a second camp for ProBUs, although probably going to want to pick up all this lane XP to try and get that XP disparity. Camps, great for pushing, not great for getting XP, as the minions are the ones that drop these delicious purple globes. With that camp in the top lane, someone from ProBUs is going to have to go back in the next 40 seconds or so. Should probably be... Looks like the whole team is going to go back, so... Doing it as a team effort, which gives time for I Must Feed to make their own clear in the bottom lane and get into a nice, aggressive positioning onto the Immortal. We did see Arthas go all the way back. They were very low on mana. Dog, I love you. Stop it. We do have I Must Feed going in onto the Immortal, trying to get themselves to halftime, maybe get a nice defensive position. Garrosh popping the Unstoppable, trying to get some damage into John Goodman, but not finding it. We do have the root coming out onto Sudden Bears. We have the blow-up attempt coming out onto John Goodman. We don't have the 7-sided strike come out. I think it was either off cooldown or just used, as we have the counter engage coming out, blowing out both of the tanks. Dezda is the third to fall. Secret Asian Man likely going to be the next to fall after that, and that is likely going to be game in favor of I Must Feed, showing that they don't have to fade in order to get these really strong team fights that they found really in both games. John Bunyan, you're going to have to do the Leeming thing of all Leeming things to try and make this defense here, as I don't think that he's got it in him. The members of I Must Feed just a little bit too healthy as they find themselves taking out games 1 and game 2 in very convincing fashion. GG and well played to them. What a game indeed, Corvix. Corix. It's Corix V. Checking out the numbers once again, we have for both games more damage getting done for ProBUs, but more winning done for I Must Feed, and really there's only two stats that matter: XP and core health, in opposite order. But really well played by them. I don't know what their standings look like in the Zul'jin Slaughter Invitational, but I do know that ProBUs was a higher seeded team at the end of the previous NGS season, so really well done by I Must Feed to get in there and, you know, show them that they're a force to be reckoned with. Go ahead and update the overlays as we see if we can get someone in here for a post-game interview. We've got a yes. Hey there.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty well. Congratulations on your very convincing victory.
Thank you, thank you.
So, I Must Feed. It's got a lot of names that I recognize, but the team name I think is pretty new. How long have you been a team?
Let me see if I got the history correctly. I think this is the third version of I Must Feed. The first version was in Heroes Lounge. Then it was in Season 8 of NGS, and now it's going to be playing the rest of this tournament, and then in Season 9 of NGS.
And this is the roster you're going to be going forward with in Season 9?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it definitely did you very well tonight. So congratulations once again.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier. Things are kind of starting to click. So
Excellent. So game one, you had you won the coin toss, getting the first hero pick, and you went into Leoric. What's the story behind that first pick?
we were thinking Deathwing initially, and then my offlaner at the last second was like, I think I want to take Leoric and force them into Deathwing. So we did that. But then we ended up banning Deathwing later anyways, I think. So it didn't really matter. But we liked the Leoric engage off the off lane, so it worked out.
It really did. The Entombs were, frankly, game-winning for you in both games.
Yeah.
Especially with shout out to Night Knight providing the fantastic follow-up to all of those Entombs, really. Getting the Buried Alive that we have at home with the Lurking Arm, and then getting the follow-on stuns with the Lunar Flare is really well done on that. So it seems like that's something that you y'all practice quite a bit.
We like in practice we like to throw a lot against the wall and just see what sticks, and then I kind of try to assemble it later. So it was definitely things that I thought we could do, and we executed pretty well.
So in particular, then I found the Genji pick very interesting. What's the reasoning behind that? I haven't seen Genji rise above like a 42% win rate in months.
I'm still playing Genji. I know everyone calls me a troll for picking it, but I still like Genji. And the thought was we had played versus them and lost with a similar comp to that, where they do the light bomb on the Blaze. And I wanted a thick tank up front to eat that, and then to counter punch their back line. That's basically what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why the Murden then.
Murden, yeah.
Considering
And then the Genji, and then also the silence against their engage. Yeah.
Alrighty. And last bit on Alterac Pass. Alterac Pass is a bit of a weird map just because it's like giant.
Right.
How do you play that map differently compared to some of the more standard maps?
I mean, we just try to keep the lanes under control, keep the camp constantly out, and then just try to keep an eye on where they are to make sure they're not sneaking a boss somewhere or being cute. I think the mistake a lot of teams make is that they focus on the objective too much, and then there's so much value you can grab elsewhere. So it's a lot of just keeping the plate spinning.
Yeah, you guys did both teams did a really great job of pretty much taking camps on cooldown.
Right.
Almost to a fault. Like, objectives up, both teams split out 2 people, maybe 3 to go take the camps, and you know, if you identify that your opponents are doing it, then it's safe for you to do it too.
Yeah, they're really good. So we were looking forward to this matchup.
Thank you, Weenus, for the 69 bits. All right, going into game number 2. It's Battlefield of Eternity, which I was a bit surprised on because you just won an Alterac Pass, and Battlefield of Eternity, not very similar to Alterac Pass. Is this a map you just feel really comfortable on, or you had something in particular you wanted to bust out for this map?
It's just a map that we're very comfortable on. Yeah, I would say that's basically the reason why.
Alrighty.
We had some role swaps going into this, so we kind of were keeping it simple with the map picks and stuff. So we're fairly comfortable on Battlefield Eternity. So
okay, the only person that I felt confident that I knew their role going into this was Night Knight, as I've seen her healing quite a bit. So yeah, I would not have identified that there was a lot of role swapping going on because it seemed like within the match everyone played pretty much the same type of roles.
Well, our main, so the swaps were that our main tank left and he gave me captain. And John used to be our off lane player. He switched to main tank. And Bears used to be our support, and he went to off lane. So we had a lot of moving pieces, and you know, I think people are jumping into their roles really well.
That explains why when I messaged Corix, they said they weren't the captain anymore, even though they still had the tag on the website.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I mean, not a whole lot to say more about game number 2. You guys pretty much won every fight convincingly except for one in that game, and I mean, that's That's just the power of coordinated crowd control that you guys pretty much had on lock. So, yeah, well done.
more or less got everything I wanted in draft. They got the Leeming from us. I would have liked the Leeming. Oh, also they banned Varian. We wanted to do a Varian blow up thing. So,
I'm not terribly surprised at that. I was thinking Diablo, personally, because I love a Diablo Tyrande comp, but Varian is easier to do that with.
Right.
So, again, congratulations, and because I haven't been paying very close attention, how has your XGDI season been going for y'all?
We're doing pretty good right now. I think we are 4-1 with this win.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And
I think I got that right.
So
or
4-0, maybe? Who do you have left to play?
You're testing my memory. I think the baddest dudes we have left. We have Wood League left. So,
all right.
Still some tough matchups to go.
Yeah, I think trying to be unbiased, I think I would favor you against the baddest dudes. No offense, I love you guys. But I think you versus Wood League is going to be a very even skill game. So I look forward to seeing that one, either first hand or second hand, depending on who ends up picking that game up eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that about does it. Make sure
cool.
Make sure you keep up on all the requisite social isolation going on, because every conversation these days has to eventually hit onto the coronavirus. So
I'm actually 6 feet away from my microphone right now, just to be careful.
Just so you don't transmit that over the internet. I appreciate it. It's very considerate of you.
Yeah, no problem.
But yeah, hard not to encourage people to play more video games as a form of social isolation that still brings you social interaction. It's the best.
Exactly.
All right, thank you for coming in for this interview, and good luck with the rest of your season.
Thank you. Take care. Big shout out to my team.
Oh yeah, shout outs. What am I doing? I'm so bad at this. Do you have any shout outs that you'd like to give? Obviously you're
well, wow, how nice of you to ask. Yes, by the way, big shout out to my team. Everyone's doing great. Picked up all the new roles. Huge shout out to Corix to being the man in the shadows with all the statistics and the research and the data. He's still a part of the team. He's not gone. So that's about it.
Also your biggest fan in the chat by far. Like 2/3 of the messages I see in Twitch chatter from Corix. So
I hope he wasn't toxic. I hope he kept it civil.
No, it was not toxic at all.
All right, man.
Thank you for coming by.
Yeah, thanks. Take care.
Alrighty, so thank you everyone for coming by. I don't have a whole lot of shoutouts or anything personally, so we're just going to open up the stream manager here and find somebody to raid real quick.